What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's ours, the Chats here, coming at you with another video, and we're talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard again. Specifically, the person who was inside of that video when we had discussed the character creator settings and about how absolutely terrible and overly infested with these kinds of topics that character creation was. Now, I am a little peeved for two reasons. First of all, the video's kind of bad so far. Eddie has not a whole lot to go with. And second of all, I just got 10 minutes into my video and realized my microphone wasn't hooked up, and therefore I was talking to nothing. Nothing was recording my audio, so you can see my lips move, but you can't hear me talking. So that's very fun, and we hope it doesn't do that again. Now, as we all know, that video that had gone around about the character creator featured a person named Eddie who wasn't very well spoken and identifies as trans. This is all public information, and I just want to be very clear that I am not doxing anything. I'm not exposing information that is not already publicly available. And I will be discussing a specific video that Eddie posted today, I assume from a Twitch stream, in which Eddie goes and says, "The haters are lying to you." Now, I just want to be very clear before I get into this. Do not go out and harass Eddie. Do not go out and say mean, unjust things to Eddie. Do not go out and interact with Eddie. At least, if you are, just know that I do not condone that kind of behavior, and you are doing that of your own volition and not of mine. So initially, my plan was to go into this blind, but given the fact that I have now seen the first 5 minutes and accidentally didn't record anything, I do know what at least some of it is. So let's leave a like, subscribe, and let's get into this actual video before I lose my mind. Alright, the first big point that Eddie drops is that saying that he's been dogpiled these past few weeks. Of course, no evidence to back this up, no evidence to show these claims, or to even show that there are actually any dogpiling going on. All that we know, because Eddie refuses to show us anything different, is that Eddie has been hit with massive criticism. Criticism is not dogpiling. Let's just make that very clear. Eddie then goes to break down the videos and the memes made about him specifically and his rook. The thumbnails featuring them and both him and his rook have been absolutely horrible. And as far as thumbnails go, here's mine. This is the one I had with Eddie's face in it. This thumbnail actually did pretty good. I'm pretty proud of it. But Eddie, just understand something real quick, Eddie. If you cannot handle being made fun of, having memes made about you, having your face put out there. You put your face out there. People are going to use your face. If you have an issue with that, don't put your likeness out there. You could use a VTuber. If you cannot handle criticism, do not make a YouTube. I received quite a lot of criticism. In fact, this video that I did with your face on it was the video with the most criticism I've ever received. I've even collected some of those criticisms because unlike you, I plan to provide receipts. But if you cannot handle it, you do not belong on the internet. If you cannot handle your likeness being used, don't put your likeness out there. If you can't handle your words being made fun of, don't say something worth being made fun of. If you cannot handle being made fun of for having a stutter, which you claim, but there's no evidence because you don't provide any, and I have yet to see any evidence of anyone making fun of your stutter. I also haven't seen any evidence of a stutter. Then edit your content so there is no stutter. And as we know, Eddie live streams, so you can't do that. But you know, if you have an issue with people commenting on a stutter, don't live stream. Do not set yourself up to fail and then complain when you fail and it's all your fault. And as for a stutter, the only thing I can think Eddie means by this is Eddie is incredibly prone to saying and other filter words a lot. And that is not a stutter. That simply means that you are very slow at coming up with what the next word of your sentence is going to be. You do not have a tendency to repeat parts of words or get stuck on parts of words. The rest of your speech behaviors are not relevant at all to a stutter. So saying that you're getting bullied for a stutter, that's not what's happening. According to Eddie, also most of the comments that he gets on his social media are fat shaming or just straight transphobia. Alright, just to see if I can find any, here is a random video from Eddie, just a random video within time frames. Let's look at this one. The veil is thin on my corner of the world of the Northern Lights. If you didn't get to see them, I feel bad for you because they were pretty freaking amazing. And interestingly enough, there is no comment that is negative or transphobic or racist or fat shaming or anything of the like. But of course, that might be a bit of a misnomer because I am looking at a non-related nerd culture stuff. What about this one that shows Eddie's rook? Once again, a shocker. No rude comments. And what about the video I'm actively reviewing? Well, the closest is this one from Nick Egg. This game is going to bomb. The radical transformation of their company will turn off potential customers, myself for one. Oh, look, not hateful. That's the closest thing to a hate comment on this post. But guess what? It's not hateful. None of this is hate. You aren't getting any hate. You might be getting pushback. You might be getting disagreement, but that's not hate. And then, of course, Eddie says everyone's favorite thing. You were never a customer. If this is your views, we've lost nothing. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But as this one wonderful person, Katarina Galemancer in the Dragon Age Summoners, they're lying for sure. Looking at Steam DB data for pre-orders, Dragon Age the Veilguard is on 64th place. That's not impressive. That's actually not a really good place at all. Just as Gemini Jack says here, you know this isn't very good, right? A couple weeks from launch, and that's pretty low, all things considered. So there's no hate. You're not getting transphobia. You're not getting fat shaming. You're not getting any of these kind of criticism you're claiming you are. And if you were, you would provide receipts. I just provided receipts of your channels. I'm not obfuscating. I'm not lying. Anyone who's watching me can go and look. These comments are not there. They might be added afterwards, and if they are, I disavow any of those comments added afterwards. But there are none there currently. The newest part, if you didn't hear, is that it's Eddie's fault that the Veilguard failed. No one's saying that. No one's saying that. No one's saying that at all. There's not a single person saying that it's your fault, Eddie. What people are saying is it's people like your fault because you are who they are pandering to. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that they're pandering to only you with this kind of game, in this specific game that is designed for a wide sweeping audience. And the funniest part about this is down here in the comments of this very video. I think the funniest joke is how this game claims to be inclusive, very selective inclusivity it seems. Only if you are a certain group of people that look very specific way are included. The rest of the 95% of people are excluded from looking how they want. And how does Eddie respond? Games have been doing that for straight people for years. And I just love a mask off moment. I just love it when the mask flips right off. The problem here isn't that she wants the game to be inclusive. The problem isn't that Eddie wants the game to be for everyone. Eddie wants the game to be for him and him alone. And congratulations, Eddie. You got your wish. Dragon Age Veilguard is for you and your handful of subscribers, your 167 subs. It's just for you people. It's not for anyone else because no one else is going to like this kind of crap. Then Eddie, of course, has to go and say that he doesn't suffer stupid people well. That pretty much explains why he lacks any kind of ability to self-reflect, because then he would have to suffer himself. And then he says it. All the people hating on Veilguard are stupid, bigoted people. That's right. That's the only criticism. The only point of criticism for this absolutely terrible looking game is because you are a bigot. But you know what, Eddie? You claim that that's the only reason to hate the Veilguard. It's because you are a bigot. And yet, here I am, a gay man, calling out all the bullshit in this game. I'm the one, I specifically called out the fact that all the NPCs are pansexual because it's a load of bullshit. You're welcome to say that it's all bigotry, but maybe the fact that the actions of the company are the actual problem. And it gets better. According to Eddie, we've never touched a woman. Now, Eddie. Do better. How dare you make such a misogynistic, homophobic claim? Never touched a woman? How is that an insult? And how is that an insult to say, I don't know, Anna, that Star Wars girl, Jeremy Prime over at Geeks and Gamers, the homosexual himself? These people have no interest in touching a woman. So how dare you insult them on this basis, given the fact that they have no interest in it? It is such a misogynistic, it is such a homophobic, bare bones insult. And the fact that you lack the self-awareness to realize this is so unbelievably funny. Kidding aside, it is an absolutely idiotic accusation to make against someone because it just proves that there are no problems. You are saying this because you have no receipts, because you are offended that someone just doesn't agree with you, and this is the best you can do to counteract them. It's lazy at best, ignorant at worst. And then as for the claim that we don't touch games, every single person here in this space, well, most of them, do Let's Plays. They discuss games, they show off their Steam library. I'll even show off my Steam library. I can even show you my 40 hours in Dragon Age Origins. And I have shown off my Steam library in the past. In fact, here it is. And I was wrong. It's not 40 hours. It's 62 hours in Dragon Age Origin. And I play so few games that I just so happen to own 243 of them. Have 300 hours in Cyberpunk, 300 hours in Injustice, 266 hours in Risk of Rain, 100 in Shadow of Mordor, going through this entire list. Oh, look at all these games that I don't play, that I don't spend hours upon hours playing, because I'm not a gamer and I don't touch games, even though I have all these hours on just Steam and I have even more on Xbox. We have the evidence, we have the receipts. What do you have other than a bunch of emotional claims? Alright, the arguments we make are ludicrous. Provide one. What's a ludicrous argument? It's bad because the character creation is only for 2% of the population. That's ludicrous to you? That's not a very ludicrous claim. That's a pretty reasonable claim. It's bad because they're putting politics before the game. That's a pretty common sense claim. There's nothing wrong there. I would love to see a single piece of evidence of a ludicrous issue. And then Eddie says that the only reason people are upset are because trans people are happy. Well, 40% seem to beg to differ. And Eddie says that when you get too deep into fandom, people get attacked for the most toxic of reasons, and that there are gay content creators being attacked for being gay, there are black content creators attacked for being black, there are women content creators who are attacked for being women. And I'm just... You say this. What about Mark with a C? What about Eric July? Okay, actually, wait. Eric July does get attacked for being black, but only from other black creators. What about Anna, that Star Wars girl? What about Steph, my nerdy home? What about Madame Savvy? What about Sevy? What about me, huh? I don't see anyone coming in here and saying that you're an F slur. I don't see anyone attacking me on the basis of my sexuality, because people don't do that unless you give them a reason to. The only time they will ever attack you based on those immutable characteristics are when you are a raging stereotype of them. If you don't want to be attacked for those characteristics, don't be a stereotype. And they're not attacking you for those characteristics, they are attacking you for the stereotype. Unless you're Eric July, in that case they just attack you for being successful and not agreeing with how they think that you should behave. And then he says that the only reason people are attacking him is because he's trans. You know, Eddie, I just thought you were a lesbian. You don't even look trans. You're not putting the effort in. So no one's attacking you for being trans. They're attacking you for being a moron. They're attacking you for putting in illogical rationale. They're attacking you because you are saying the most ludicrous of things. And I've already shown the proof of this. This whole video is proof that you actually are saying ludicrous things. And they're attacking you for your lack of self-awareness. You can assume it's transphobia, but you are wrong. And this is really funny. I didn't get this far in my first recording. So earlier, he says that he's not a shill. And right now he's saying that he is being contacted and offered support by BioWare's team, which means BioWare is actively working with him, which means BioWare is actively offering him things, even if it's nothing more than attention. And guess what? That officially means you are a shill. You are getting something that you want out of the company in exchange for exposure. And yes, I know for a fact you're probably putting out this content regardless of whether or not they did anything for you. But the fact that they're doing something for you makes you a shill. It doesn't matter what content I put out into the world. People are going to plaster my face all over their hate comments. Where? I still have my mic. Where are these hate comments? I'm looking for them. I'm not finding them. Where are people taking anything you put out there? Huh? You put out a picture about the night sky. No hate. You put out several posts about BioWare. No hate. Where is it? I'm just asking. Eddie, please. Where is the hate? Just show it. Just one post. Just one instance of hate. So we can either disavow it or agree with it. And if we agree with it, we prove you right, don't we? Just show some evidence. Eddie, please stop. Please stop. You're saying wrong things. According to him, the only criticism of this game is transphobia. The only reason to criticize this game is because we're hating on trans people. I'd argue this game is hating on normal people. In fact, I'd argue this game is hating on anyone who doesn't have the world's smallest body. It's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. And I'm very happy to be able to cover someone lying through their teeth. Well, let me correct myself. He's not lying because he unironically believes everything he's saying. And that is the much more dangerous part. If you have valid criticism of this game, I will hear you out, except you are not, because every single criticism levied is valid. We're not saying that we hate the Veilguard because the cover picture is purple. That would be invalid criticism. Everything we are giving you is valid criticism. And the fact that you do not want to hear it means you are not interested in conversation. You are just interested in being pandered to. And then he says that if your criticism is trans woke, fuck off. That's not real criticism. Look up the definition of criticism. So Eddie will do just that. Criticism. Noun. The act of criticizing, especially adversely. A critical comment or judgment. The practice of analyzing, classifying, interpreting, or evaluating literary or other artistic works. Oh look, that classifies. Who would have thunk that everything we're doing is valid criticism because it is actual criticism? Well, anyone with 2 brain cells to rub together, but according to you, we don't have half a brain cell to rub together. I think you're projecting a little bit, Eddie. I recommend you look into exactly what the Dunning-Kruger effect is. It might be a beneficial thing for your own bit of self-awareness. And none of these people are Dragon Age fans. They're just reporters. They're just game reporters. That's the issue, isn't it? Interesting how we've all shown that we've played Dragon Age. And I have said that I'm not a huge Dragon Age fan. I felt the first game had things that I didn't like about it. I liked it. It wasn't a great game in my opinion, but it also wasn't a bad game. But guess what? I still put 60 hours into it. I beat the main campaign. I didn't do the DLC. I need to go back and do it. But I damn well played Dragon Age Origins. I classify as someone who played the game, and I did enjoy it. So, try again. Also, it doesn't matter if you're a fan or not. You're allowed to comment on the state of a game regardless of whether or not you've played it and regardless of whether or not you enjoyed it. We are not being critics. We are not rating or reviewing the game based on its merits. We are simply reporting the news. This is a news channel. Geeks and Gamers, Hypnotic, all of them are news-based channels. And then he says it. The reports in journalism is wrong and blatant lies. What? Eddie. Receipts. Just one. All I want is one receipt. Making shit up receipts. And it looks like he's about to give one, so let's hear him out. Eddie says that the evidence that people are making things up is that because a person with fancy LED lights, so I'm going to assume it's Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, could be brings on an expert to talk about it, and it just happens to be one of his mates. And I guarantee you that the person he brought on was Side Scrollers, because Side Scrollers is the one who talks about pre-order numbers, and that's what he's talking about, is that Dragon Age Veilguard has very bad pre-order numbers. So they brought in probably Side Scrollers, could be someone else. The fact that he's his mate doesn't disqualify it, because Side Scrollers has industry connections. Your fancy story doesn't prove anything because you are leaving out delivered information. Side Scrollers has a connection to a big box store that has so far been consistent with everything we have learned. Side Scrollers is a reputable journalist and has been giving us true information. No lies detected. And he mentions that it's because someone was talking to the GameStop. So yes, that is in fact Side Scrollers. And then he obfuscates, says, oh, but what about the digital? Well, we don't have those numbers. But here's the thing. If you are ordering, the orderings for physical copies is a direct correlation, note that word, correlation, not causation, to how well a game is going to do digitally. Because if people aren't buying physically, odds are they're not going to buy digitally. Because a portion of the market will always buy physical. Ergo, the rate of physical sales is in fact comparable to the rate of digital sales. Especially because every single instance where the physical sales were low, the digital sales were also incredibly low. We are looking at these as proportions of the market, not as one-to-ones. And yet he's still going on about the digital sales. Guess what? It doesn't matter because it is a direct correlation. It is a percentage. If the sales of the physical game are 20% less than the expectations, then it's pretty easy to assume the digital sales follow suit. And yes, it might not be accurate, but it's a pretty damn good indicator. Yeah, so this is absolute obfuscation, it's absolute lying, it's absolute manipulation. He's intentionally putting in a bad light using a false straw man to make you think that we're lying, but ignoring any of the actual validity of the claims. And instead of pointing out the fact that Side Scrollers is connected to a big box store and that's who he talks to, he acts like the only source that Side Scroller has is a random salesman behind the desk at GameStop. And that's a pretty negative way to talk about GameStop salesmen, don't you think? Aren't you the one who fosters a community of love and support? Oh, and this is... So, her next piece of criticism is some bitch was watching the trailer and Dragon Age the Veilguard relies on a heavy light hit system. And he's sitting here for a minute, 2 minutes, trying to come up with a single game that has a light and heavy attack system and he can't think of a single fucking one. Oh my lord. This person wants us to take him seriously. And yet... How? How could you? And only start saying some when his fucking chat comes in clutch. And the criticism that Eddie here is countering is that someone complained that the attacks were doing no damage against the boss, and this means that the game's going to take a really long time to play because of one of the trailers. And you know what? It does look pretty slow. I will say, Dragon Age the Veilguard, you move fast, you don't do a lot of damage based on numbers. But Eddie here saying is because it's all fast attacks, and it's a dragon, so of course it's going to take you a long time. But the one problem is that's valid criticism. If your issue with the game is it looks like common encounters are going to take too long, that is a valid criticism. That means you don't enjoy the style of the game. That's valid. But of course, because Eddie can't comprehend valid criticism, this has to be an obfuscation of bigotry. Man, I can't, even with these kinds of people. And Eddie's saying the problem is that because the fast attacks didn't do much as heavy damage. No one said they did. No one said they did. But you know what? If I'm fighting a dragon with 1000 HP and my fast attacks are doing 1 point of damage, I'm going to lose a whole lot of interest really fast. It would take longer to kill that dragon than it does to knock out a Chansey in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl when using close combat. That would take less time than it would to kill a friggin' dragon in this game, and no one wants to sit through that. That is valid criticism. What is your point? And then, of course, Eddie's other criticism is if the dragon died in 5 hits, I don't know where he's pulling that number from, other than his ass, then she'd be complaining that the dragon died too fast. And you know what? Here's a crazy idea. Both of those can be true, and both of those are valid criticisms of the game. How is that such... Eddie, I know you don't actually play video games. I know you just play fancified dating sims. Those are both valid criticisms. A fight can take too long or take too short. There is a specific window of the length of a fight that feels fair and reasonable as a normal commitment of time. And there is such a thing as too short and too fast. And you just named both of them. You literally just pointed at the extremes as something as a ridiculous complaint. But if the extremes to you are ridiculous, then why are you using them? Those are fair criticisms, both of them. You are not doing anything that you think you are. Eddie then says that a lot of these people are complaining the game isn't diverse. But how can it not be diverse? We have blacks, we have Asians, we have gays, we've got trannies. The game is as diverse as you could want, right? No. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this freaking works. The game is not diverse because it is not diverse in the context of the game. It might be diverse in the context of our world, but guess what? I'm not playing Dragon Age in fucking California. I'm playing Dragon Age in the Veil. I am playing Dragon Age in its world, which is styled after medieval Europe. A diverse Dragon Age, I don't know, would have diversifying body types. Here's something you should be using. Why is it you can't create a fat character in this game, huh? Where are the fat rooks? You can't make them. You can't make a body positive rook, which normally is a good thing, but the fact that you're not mentioning it shows your own hypocrisy. The fact that you can't design your character's legs, butts, breasts, chest, anything. You can't make an attractive character is a much bigger problem than the fact that you have all these fancy, superficial diversities when the characters themselves actually lack diverse character creation. And he says that we wouldn't have complained about the Veilguard if trans people weren't in it. Wrong. Well, actually, there is one exception to that. The reason why the game looks bad and the reason we're trans, if it's the same reason, which it very easily could be, people who are non-competent forcing these sectors into the game. The people who push these bad styles that we're complaining about, and the people who force the transgenderism are generally the same people. Remove those people, remove the transgenderism, ergo removing the bad sectors, we might have had a good game. But that's too many layers of thinking for someone like Eddie. And you know what? If they didn't have mastectomy scars, I'd still think this game looks bad. It still looks like a goddamn Fortnite clone with crappy magicians. The Canary still looks stupid and overly pasteurized. The characters still look lame. The character selection is still bad. It has nothing to do with trans people. We don't give a shit. We don't give a damn. In fact, the inclusion of trans people is a misnomer, because how do we know that other games don't have them, huh? How do we know the other Dragon Age games don't allow you to play a trans rook? We don't. Because it doesn't fucking matter. The fact that they have the mastectomy scars, which are justifiably complained about, is because it is pandering. It's not representation, it's pandering. Because in a world like Dragon Age, guess what? You wouldn't have mastectomy scars. They would cast a spell, give you a potion that changes your gender, or you'd be stuck wearing a binder, but you sure as fuck would not be having mastectomy scars because they would not be performing mastectomies. And if they really wanted to go all in on the diversity, why not include the big boobs and the big legs? The fact that the claim that the reason they don't have it is because every other game has it is not a valid complaint. It's not a valid point. It doesn't matter. Where, you know, if we're going to have all these inclusive scars, where's the female to male arm scar, huh? Why not give us a slew of scars for the body? Why only give us that one body scar? And why not put it with the rest of the scars? Why put it in a very special place as a toggle instead of a selectable scar? There are a million ways you could have made this fine, and they chose the one that virtue signaled and pandered, not the one that's representative. The only people making fun of the boobs and breast size and leg size and butt size are misogynistic transphobes who are sexualizing women. Oh my lord. Most of the people complaining about this are women. And that Star Wars girl, Steph, that Minority Home, Madam Sevi, Kirsha, all of these people are women, and they're the ones who are leading the complaints against the small-waisted women. And I'm complaining about the lack of a big butt size in a man, because guess what? I like a nice juicy ass on my male characters. You can't have that. You can't have it because it's too much. It's too sexual. But I'm not sexualizing a female character. I'm sexualizing a male character, and that's equally not allowed. Why is that, huh? Because it's not about transphobia. It's not about misogyny. You're using these buzzwords because your audience will eat it up without thinking about it. But they are wrong. The problem is controlling choice. It is controlling action. They are not letting you make the decision. They are forcing it upon you. And Eddie goes through to say that imagine being so fragile. That's kind of ironic. Coming from someone out here who sat down for 35 minutes and just whinged and whinged and whinged. Said the same thing over and over again. About one topic, about one center of complaint. And I know people are going to come in here and say, well, you're doing the same thing. Why isn't it wrong that you're doing it? Because I'm reacting to the full video. And I'm doing it to make fun of Eddie. Because I'm actually making fun of Eddie. Because Eddie deserves to be made fun of. And also, because this is educational. This is the whole point of this video is to point out exactly what these people are using as weapons. And disproving their weapons is nothing more than obfuscation to hide their real feelings. It is important to be transparent about every single thing these people are saying. It is important to expose it. It is important to share it. And it is important to debunk it. Unlike what Eddie is doing, where all he is doing is throwing a tantrum. And if you guys get some entertainment out of it, that's a bonus. The only criticisms that Eddie accepts as valid are the ones that he agrees with. Because of course that's the case. And that the characters feel too short and their necks feel too stubby. Why are your criticisms valid? Huh? How do we know how are you not criticizing these characters for having a height problem they can't control? You are not being very body positive, Mr. Eddie. This is so tiring. The fact that I'm sitting through this is boggling. The fact that I'm taking the sacrifice on, Hypnotic only made it 3 minutes in, is all I'm going to say. I made it 24 so far, so I think that deserves at least some praise. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. Alright, there's nothing else going on in the video. It's all just Eddie talking about the height of characters a bit more, and then talking about cats and birds. Now, I'm going to leave a comment that requests that Eddie drops the receipts, and I'm going to use his language. Hi, Eddie. I really like your content and positivity. My only question is I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share some receipts so we can see what's happening. A lot of the bigoted haters claim you are making up all these claims, and it'd be truly refreshing if we could see what those bigoted comments are so we can prove to those cretins that it isn't all a straw man. Now, I'm not expecting Eddie to respond or show anything at all, and I'm really worried Eddie's going to bother to actually check my channel, because that would be kind of funny if Eddie looked and was like, oh, this is one of those bigoted cretins who are attacking me. So let's comment that, and let's get into the rest of this video. So, of course, as you saw, well, you didn't see because I didn't play audio because I forgot to mute my computer, there is nothing wrong. There's no validity to anything he's saying. He didn't provide any lies. He didn't show anything we lied about. He didn't say anything that we said wrong. All he said was bigots. He said that we're all a bunch of racists, but we're the racists. But you're praising the game purely on the fact that it has real-world races in it. That sounds a bit more racist. That's a bit more racist, don't you think? He claimed that all of the people making criticisms were just transphobes and homophobes, and then goes to say that all the people who make criticisms are just because that they haven't touched a woman, ignoring, I don't know, heterosexual women and ignoring gay men entirely, given the fact that there's a decent number of us, like Jeremy from Gays and Gamers, Gary from Neurotic, me, all criticizing this based on the fact that as gay people, it looks really bad. And I know I'm going to get some comments. Why did I refer to Eddie as his preferred pronouns in this? Well, it's pretty simple. Using anything else could get me in trouble, and I don't give a shit to deal with it. It's easier to just say it and not deal with the comments, and then, of course, mock him in the background. As I said, Eddie doesn't put any effort into his transition. He doesn't look anything like a man. He doesn't act like a man. The fact that he was sniffling throughout the entire video, and just be clear, these are not insults. These are criticisms. The fact he was sniffling throughout the entire video at the verge of crying proves definitively that Eddie is putting on a costume and is internalizing what he claims to be. And what about those hate comments I promised you? Well, I'll provide some of them from the same video that I showed that thumbnail from. Eddie has more love in their community than your desperate videos for click hate. I'm not posting videos for desperate click hate, but I would appreciate those clicks because I could definitely use more clicks. But Eddie has so much love in his community that he attacks anyone and disregards all opinions that aren't his. That's so loving and so accepting to me. This one I think was in Spanish, I don't remember, but it's just you want to cry, you want to cry, you want to cry. I mean, of course, these aren't terrible hate comments. They're not horribly bad, but I think YouTube blocked a bunch of them. This is one of my favorite one. You are a character, and if you continue in this lane, you end up losing your channel. Behave responsibly and don't dead name and attack Eddie. This is not Twitter. YouTube will take it very seriously. And this was, I think, my 5th or 6th day on YouTube, and I had gotten my first ever person threatening to get me kicked off of YouTube, which I thought was incredibly fun, incredibly bold of them. Only problem is, I've been around the YouTube spaces for a lot longer than I've been posting. I've been watching Geeks and Gamers for 3 years now, and I know damn well YouTube isn't going to do a damn thing unless I violate terms of services, which I am not, and I will not be doing. So I admit, those weren't terrible comments. Those weren't the worst comments I had, but I think those were the ones I was safe to show on YouTube, and it's just pretty funny, and just shows. We get the hate that you claim that your community doesn't have. I mean, just look at what happened to Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, and I covered that when they got an entire hate campaign to get them all demonetized and take away their source of income. Now, of course, my favorite comment that I'm not going to show because I can't find it. My apologies. I know I didn't find it. But the person basically said, I'll come back to this when I use you in a video. I've checked the person's account a few times. I'm not going to dox them. But I'm very much looking forward to when I'm featured in one of their videos, and I just beg them, please put me in one of your videos so I can grift. That's all I want. It's just a grift off of a video making fun of me. I think that's the YouTuber's dream, and I think that's how you know when you finally made it. So, like I said, don't go out and harass Eddie. Don't harass these people. If you want to confront them, that's your prerogative. I am not condoning that. Do what you want to do. I don't care. But these people are just using the same cheap tricks they've been using since day one. Call you a racist, call you a homophobe, call you a misogynist, call you a transphobe. Not actually deal with any of your arguments, not engage with any kind of good faith, and they'll never learn. If Eddie wants to have an honest discussion about what's wrong with this stuff, DM me. I'll show up on your show. I will be respectful. I will not dead name you. Not that I know what your dead name is anyway. I will respect yours and your partner's pronouns. I will be as respectful as possible. And I am a gay man, so I do match some of the criteria, I would assume. And I will gladly discuss this in all transparency and all honesty. This is not hate. This is not being rude. This is not bullying. This is legitimate criticism, and this is educational. This is exactly what the reason I'm doing this is because of how you tried to silence us. If you didn't call me a transphobe, I wouldn't be making this video to prove you as a hypocrite. That's how this works. Be fair to us, and we will be fair to you. And yes, Eddie, your face is going in my thumbnail. So, that's pretty much what I've got for this one. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts on this whole situation is. Do you think I wasted my time? Do you think I was a bit too harsh? Or do you think I should have been more cruel? Let me know. All comments are welcome, even hate comments, because those are at least funny to me. And I will see you guys on the next one.